everything you thought was just a crazy conspiracy theory was actually true. From government cover-ups to corporate deceit, the most shocking conspiracy theories have been uncovered, and they turned out to be 100% true. And trust me, the #1 spot will blow your mind, so buckle up, because today we're diving into the top 10 conspiracy theories that turned out to be true. Some of these are so unbelievable you won't believe they're real, but they are. Stick around to the end, because we've got some jaw-dropping revelations coming your way. Watergate scandal. For years, the idea that the U.S. government was involved in a massive political cover-up seemed like the plot of a Hollywood thriller. But in 1972, it all came crashing down. Turns out, President Nixon's administration had orchestrated a break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters to spy on political rivals. That wasn't just a theory. It was the truth. The scandal forced Nixon to resign.
Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
And it changed how Americans viewed the government forever. So, next time someone calls Watergate a conspiracy theory, just remember, it's a fact. Coming in at number 9 is MK-Ultra, the CIA's mind control experiments. For decades, anyone who said the government was experimenting on people with LSD was labeled a paranoid conspiracy theorist. That was until the 1970s when documents were declassified, revealing a series of secret experiments aimed at mind control. The CIA had been dosing unsuspecting citizens with psychedelics and conducting mental manipulation research.
I am on medication now because of what happened to me when I was 16. I have not had any compensation or apology. I want everyone to know in Canada what went on in that horrible, horrible hospital.
Incredible, right? And yet, it was all true. This mind-bending program is a perfect example of a conspiracy that turned out to be far darker than we could have imagined. At number 8, we have one of the most horrific betrayals of trust in American history, the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. For over 40 years, the U.S. Public Health Service ran a study on African American men, allowing them to suffer from syphilis without treatment, all to observe the disease's progression. These men were never told they had the disease, let alone offered a cure. The scandal only came to light in the 1970s, but the damage was done. This wasn't a theory. It was a government-sanctioned tragedy. The ethical implications are still felt today.
What the United States government did was shameful, and I am sorry.
At number 7, we have a conspiracy that was decades in the making, the Big Tobacco cover-up. For years, cigarette companies denied any link between smoking and cancer, even though they knew the truth. In the 1960s, internal memos showed that tobacco companies had evidence that their products caused cancer, but intentionally hid the information from the public to protect profits.
I believe nicotine is not addictive, yes.
Mr. Johnston.
Congressman, cigarettes and nicotine clearly do not meet the classic definitions of addiction.
It wasn't just big tobacco conspiracy talk. This was cold, hard truth, and it led to one of the biggest lawsuits in history. At number 6, we've got COINTELPRO, the FBI's covert operation to sabotage civil rights organizations, including Martin Luther King Jr.'s group. For years, the FBI targeted activists, Black Panther members, and political groups, spying on them, spreading misinformation, and even attempting to discredit leaders like MLK. For years, the FBI denied it. But in the 1970s, documents were released that confirmed this massive surveillance and sabotage program. Another conspiracy turned real. At number 5, we've got the Panama Papers, exposing the global elite's secret tax evasion schemes. In 2016, an enormous leak revealed how the world's richest and most powerful figures were hiding their wealth offshore, avoiding taxes, and even laundering money through secret shell companies. The leak, involving millions of documents, implicated political leaders, business tycoons, and celebrities.
We turn now to the banking bombshell causing shockwaves around the world. The so-called Panama Papers, believed to be the biggest data leak in history, are exposing how some of the world's wealthiest and most powerful people.
For years, people suspected the rich were avoiding taxes. Now we know they were doing it on a massive scale. The truth was finally out, and it was even bigger than anyone could have imagined. Coming in at number 4, we have the Iran-Contra affair, In the 1980s, the U.S. government secretly sold arms to Iran, which was under an arms embargo, to fund Contra rebels in Nicaragua against the law. The entire operation was hidden from Congress and the public. For years, it was brushed off as a wild conspiracy, but in the late 1980s, it came to light during investigations and trials implicating top officials in the Reagan administration.
Is my commitment to the investigations themselves. So far, we've had 4 investigations by the Justice Department, the Tower Board, the Independent Counsel, and the Congress. I requested 3 of those investigations, and I endorsed and cooperated fully with the 4th, the congressional hearings, supplying over 250,000 pages of White House documents, including parts of my own private diaries.
This wasn't just an under-the-radar political maneuver. It was a full-blown covert operation that involved illegal arms sales, international manipulation, and a cover-up at the highest level. At number 3, we have Operation Northwoods, a chilling plan by the U.S. government to stage terrorist attacks on American soil as a pretext to justify war against Cuba. In the 1960s, U.S. military officials actually proposed to carry out false flag attacks, including hijacking planes and staging bombings to make it look like Cuba was responsible. Fortunately, President Kennedy shot down the plan before it could be implemented, but for years, the story was dismissed as a conspiracy theory.
No, except that we're not going to invade Cuba. That's the only one we've got now. But we don't plan to invade Cuba under these conditions anyway.
But it wasn't a theory. It was a real plan, and it was only declassified decades later. Just imagine what would have happened if it had gone through. Coming in at number 2 is the CIA's involvement in the widespread use of LSD during the 1960s. You've probably heard that the government used LSD on unwitting test subjects, but what many don't know is the extent of the CIA's experimentation. MK Ultra wasn't just about mind control. It was about testing LSD on military personnel, students, and even random civilians without their consent to learn about its potential for manipulation and control. It was a widespread effort that was kept secret for decades, but when the truth came out, it was even more disturbing than we could have imagined. Government agencies didn't just turn a blind eye to the use of psychedelics, they were actively using them as a tool of control. And now, for the most shocking conspiracy of them all, the FBI's role in the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Yes, you heard that right. The government was not only aware of threats against Dr. King, but they actively worked to discredit and sabotage him, including efforts to undermine his leadership and reputation. The FBI's COINTELPRO operation against King was more extensive than anyone thought. But what if I told you the FBI's actions went even further? Many now believe that the FBI's interference played a role in his assassination. And although the official story points to James Earl Ray, there's a growing body of evidence suggesting that his death may have been part of a much darker, coordinated effort. So, there you have it. These 10 so-called conspiracy theories turned out to be undeniable facts, and each one of them has reshaped our view of the world. But what about you? What do you think about these shocking revelations? Are there any conspiracy theories you believe might be true? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take. If you found this video eye-opening, hit that like button, share this with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping content. Stay curious, and remember, sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.